As someone who still has a lot to learn about painting, I like to watch other YouTubers to learn, but also for motivation. But I find that I get motivated, but also demotivated at the same time, because they seem to have an extensive collection of different paints, brushes and airbrushing equipment, and I don't have that yet. So in this video I want to find out, is it possible to paint this abandoned structure and make it look great, while only having used enamel paints a few times and having limited colors available? I have these Umbro enamel paints that my dad bought years ago for painting model aircraft, and some of them are quite old and not so good. I've painted all of the buildings except for this one, and that's mainly because I think it's the most difficult one, and I don't really know how to do it. It's an abandoned, half-destroyed structure which I designed some time ago, and I want to paint it in a way that it looks old and dirty and abandoned. So in this video I'll show you how I try my best to paint it. Also, I got kinda lung infection or something about 5 weeks ago, and my voice is still recovering, so if I sound different, that's why. But that's not gonna stop me from making this video, so let's get started. White resin kinda sucks to paint on, so I decided to paint the whole thing black to stop light from shining through and to give me a nice base coat. I don't have primer. I also don't know how necessary it is for something like this. I think if I were to use acrylic paint, a primer would be more necessary, but I'm only using enamel paints, which is quite tough. I didn't know what to start with, so I thought let's paint all of the small bricks brown. The mission was not to get stuck overthinking it, and just try some stuff and see what happens. At this moment it was looking a bit too brown, and I didn't want the whole thing to look too much brown, so I decided to paint the bigger bricks and the lintels grey. I mixed black and white to create this grey. Painting the structure is quite challenging because the inside needs to be painted as well, and it's hard to reach in some areas. I then got some random colors on a tray and painted some of the small bricks to give them some variety. I try to keep this effect quite subtle. I don't want to go crazy with different colored bricks. At this stage I didn't like the light grey on the bigger bricks, so I mixed some darker grey and tried to darken them a bit, while also trying to give them some randomness and variety. I was quite happy with how it started looking at this stage, so I thought let's try adding some highlights by dry brushing on some light grey. It's important that the previous layer of the paint is completely dry before doing this, otherwise it will become a mess. I try to do the dry brushing mostly from the top to the bottom to simulate some sun and weather damage. Or I don't know, I thought it made more sense to do it like that. After dry brushing, I was kinda happy with how it looked and didn't know what else to do, so I decided to start weathering the wooden beams, or whatever you call them. To start, I made a brown wash using oil paint. This was mainly to darken the color of the wood. After letting that dry in the sun, I made a almost black wash, which I applied in some areas. I also thought, hey, let's add some of the wash to the brick wall and see what happens. I mixed some of the brown and black wash to do this. I only added this in some areas I thought would look good. I didn't want to apply much because it can make the whole thing look very dark, which it already is. I think if I were to paint it again, I would try to use a bit lighter colors. Let me know what you think. To enhance the texture of the wooden beams, I dry brush on some light yellow oil paint like this. I like using oil paints for dry brushing like this because it doesn't dry on the brush as fast as other paints. And I don't have to worry about it not drying on the surface I'm applying it to, because it's real wood which will absorb the oil in the paint. This is how it looks after weathering. But before gluing them in, I wanted to work on the floor a bit more. I didn't have a clue what I wanted to do, but I didn't like the dark grey color it was. So I painted it using acrylics and then added some texture using sifted dirt from outside. Also placing two wooden beams laying on the floor. To glue it all down, I first apply some IPA to break the surface tension, and then diluted PVA glue that's mixed with a drop of dish soap just to help break the surface tension a bit more. Oi, my voice. I then used super glue for gluing in the wooden beams. There's a few things I wanted to talk about in this video, like does it really matter what type of paint you use and what you use it for? I'm doing a lot of research about different paints because I'm looking into buying some better paints for painting these buildings. But I will do that in another video when my voice has recovered fully. Hopefully it does. It's been like this for 3 weeks now. But anyway, here's the final result. My main mission with this one was to not get stuck overthinking things and just try anything when I don't know what to do next. I hope you learned something or found this video enjoyable to watch, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.